Tonight on Bog Panda, we're talking emulation again, but for two systems we've never talked about emulation for, I don't believe. So I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on social media, and joining me as always.
I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything, even the ones that I don't really use. That's X and Threads because I don't know how Threads works. But you guys can hit me up on there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to want to see those pictures of you at our merch. So make sure you guys leave comments. Tell us that it's you contacting us so that we don't think it's porn bots. Come back, leave comments as porn bots, buy merch for your porn bots. And the whole time, both of you can watch Hard No. It's the world's shortest podcast. There's hundreds of episodes of it up. They're all about a minute long each. It's going to change your life.
I'm going to be interested to see how Google's automated evaluation software evaluates the start of this show.
I think we're fine.
I'm sure you think we're fine.
I do.
It's
I do
not your
think
channel. We established that before. But so if this happens to still be up and all that good stuff, it hasn't been shadow banned or buried or whatever the gods at YouTube do on some of those things. We're going to talk a little bit about emulation. So we've had some past shows where we've talked about 3DO emulation, Jaguar, which is really cool. And Mike has been taking these and steadily building a hard drive, his own little emulation station, and added some things. And so I came across something and shared with them for a new edition, which is the Dolphin Emulator, which will emulate both the Nintendo GameCube and the Nintendo Wii. And I'm not sure about Wii University, but definitely Wii U, but the definitely the Wii. And UCG Retro, who we've referenced before, he does a fantastic job and taking you step by step about here's where you find the emulator, here's how you download it, here's the configuration stuff. He does a nice thorough job and pretty quick and snappy. So if you're looking to, if this interests you and you decide to do it, we're going to include a link to his video in the description, and he'll give you step by step on how to set that up. But I was pretty intrigued to see this. So as a becoming, I guess, a emulator baron that you are, as your portfolio continues to grow, what were your thoughts when you first saw this?
Super excited when you sent me this. So I don't know about you, but I have just basically no experience with GameCube.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I played like one game for a brief period of time at somebody's house once, but just really no experience with it. It was weird, and they made weird choices as far as the media for it. So Nintendo, of course, fought making the switch to CDs. It was a fad. That's why they dropped Sony, who went on to make PlayStation without them. And then stuck with cartridges through Nintendo 64, which caused problems like with Doom 64, for example. They had to drop content because the cartridge just couldn't hold it. And you couldn't do double cartridge games and things like that. So when they finally switched over to CDs, instead of going to DVDs or standard CD-ROMs, they came up with their own proprietary discs, which caused more problems for them again. Again, this was a bad idea because Sony adopted DVDs for PlayStation 2, and it made PlayStation 2 the best-selling console of all time because it was the cheapest way to get a DVD player at the time, and you got a PlayStation 2 out of it. So it was a weird move on their part. So it kept me personally away from adopting GameCube because it came down to GameCube or PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 2 was a cool system with a DVD player.
Yeah, so I don't know what it was. Just the GameCube never rolled into. So we had Nintendo 64, had a Wii, but the GameCube never kind of got on the radar. And I think part of it was that's about when we flipped to PlayStations because you get kind of a 2-for-1. You get a gaming console and now another piece of audio video hardware, and off you're going. And that trend continued into, oh, I've got a DVD player and a game system. Oh, I got a Blu-ray player and a game system. So I think Sony's been pretty sharp on that. But those who did have a GameCube, or those who are familiar with the GameCube, many of them are, and I've mentioned this before, are pretty fiercely loyal. Have
Yeah.
a lot of good things to say. So I think this opportunity to emulate that experience and see what it's all about looks good. I was actually surprised initially of the combination to say, yeah, this is an emulator for a GameCube and the Wii. I just because it just struck me as two very different approaches to gaming. Um, but apparently, the emulation side of the equation, there's some efficiencies there, and you can build something that'll pretty easily accept both. So I'm looking forward to downloading and installing this, and one getting really my first serious exposure to some GameCube games, and then also in UCG Retro's video, he at the tail end of it, he talks about you can actually take some steps and have your Wii remote actually interact and work with this emulator, which props for that, and kind of necessary for Wii emulation.
Yeah, that's the thing with it. Like the interesting thing about Wii is that it's not a very powerful system. Which was really the only thing that kind of held it back from getting more hardcore gamers on board. It was a hugely successful system because they wisely targeted like casual gamers with it and family games and things like that. Again, super smart. They sold tons and tons of Wii's and tons of games, but they couldn't quite hit that hardcore fan base with it. I remember they tried. They did a big push called We Are Mature. I don't know if you remember that campaign. Highlighting their more serious games that were on there. But a lot of them used motion controls, which is ironically something Nintendo has been trying since the NES days. You had motion controls for the NES in a very similar fashion. And they've tried this a few times and it just never took off. And then we looked like it was poised to probably be their final system at that time because Nintendo 64, while it has its fans, was nowhere near the sales of PlayStation or Xbox that it was going up against. GameCube was absolutely buried by PlayStation 2 and then Xbox and Xbox 360. I mean, it just never even remotely was on the same level as those sales wise. So nobody would have thought that Wii would be the breakout it was. And it seems pretty underpowered if you look at a lot of the games, even at that time, compared to what was happening on PlayStation and Xbox consoles. I mean, they're night and day in what they're capable of doing. So it really comes down to those motion controls. So I'm sure it's probably not hard necessarily from a power standpoint to emulate those games. It's just getting the real controls to work with it. So that definitely interests me for it. Also, too, what I really want to see is there was great games for Wii. The cool thing that they did, which is weird because again, it kind of went against Nintendo's stance. Nintendo is famous for having insanely high fees to publish games on their systems, which they justified by saying it was their way of quality controlling what came out for their consoles. For Wii, though, they had the download games that you could get, and they would let indie developers put stuff on there. So there was a lot of really cool, like indie games that were only released digitally for Wii. So those games, like, it sucks that those games aren't available anywhere else now.
Yeah, and it really sucks too because they while I still have a fully functional Atari 2600 and a fully functional Nintendo Wii, but for the Wii, the marketplace, the environment to kind of be able to interact with that and be able to pull some of that stuff down is, it's all gone. So you can, whatever you happen to have on hard media, you're good to go. Or if you've saved some of these games and downloaded them, put them on a memory card, you're good to go. But if you didn't take advantage of while you had the chance, you're not there. So I'm sure there's some aftermarket options now that you could get some of the indie stuff, but it's just it's going to be a trick on that. But yeah, I mean, and it was, I mean, the big selling point on the Wii definitely was just hey, this is up to that point, one of the best executions of uh, a different interaction mechanism that you kind of worked before. Uh, you get into now the VR capabilities that are, just a million times better. But the Wii, there wasn't anything comparable, and the Wii was doing some of the stuff. So you could, it did open the door to bring in a lot of super casual folks who are not tech savvy at all to say, oh, okay, I get this and I can interact with it. First, they couldn't, for whatever reason, figure out a controller, but they could figure out, oh, I swing this. All right. So, yeah, and it looks like to kind of extend that out, you've got another $30 or so you need to spend to get a bar to be an infrared bar to kind of connect up and let the controller interact with comparable to what the Wii has. But those are available. There's in UCG Retro's video. There's in the description. There's a link to where you can go buy that product and kind of USB it into your laptop and off you go. So will Dolphin be making its way onto the Belinsky hard drive emulators?
Absolutely. More so for the GameCube, but if this opens up a door for me to get some of those digital games that I had, and right at the top of that list would be Castlevania Adventure Rebirth. That was one of it was an excellent Castlevania game. I would say one of the better ones. There's so many Castlevania games, but definitely on the top tier for me, and that has never been released on any other format, which doesn't make sense because Konami loves repackaging Castlevania games and re-releasing them, and that one has never appeared anywhere else.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to get it as well. However, breaking news: a few shows ago, we talked about a hard drive that you would plug into your PC, your laptop, and it brought a whole slew of games, including PS3 games, maybe even some PS4 games, some other platforms we're not going to mention because of very
Issues.
unusual to have all those sitting on a hard drive. An order's been placed, and so
Okay.
so one of those is coming my way, and so that I believe I'd have to go back and look, but I believe had a GameCube section, which will I'll give a test drive too. But I kind of like setting up the emulators too. That's been fun with the Jaguar and 3DO, and so we'll continue to play with that as well. But to the degree it's all taken care of for me, like that too.
Yeah. I don't know if I sent you the link for it, but I've been debating now between that and the newest Ken Hank Super Console product, the mini PC.
Yeah, you sent me a link to that. That looked good. We may do a show on that and kind of talk about that. Maybe we'll wait till after I get my little hard drive fun, gain a little bit of experience, and we can kind of talk through. But I think even though there's a bit of the inconvenience that the way my setup is done, my Super Console X is in the grid, connected up to the projector, good to go. To connect this hard drive up, I'm going to have to kind of have the laptop in a better position to help feed that as well. So we'll see. But the more I kind of look at it, I said there's at least a chance, depending how inconvenient it is for me to set up the extra stuff I need to set up to play it, that my Super Console X may be rendered somewhat obsolete. We'll have to see. So more to come on that, folks. We'll keep you posted as we continue to look at goodies. Let us know what you're doing for emulation. What right now your preferred platform is, whether you're going with one of these hard drives, or are you going to one of these kind of combo hard drive PC like Mike's talking about? Are you just setting up emulation on your system and doing it that way? What's kind of your favorite? Do you do the Super Console X thing? Whatever, what's the route you like to go? We'd like to kind of hear from some other folks what they're doing and what's worked out well for them as we continue to explore options ourselves. Anything else, sir?
No, nothing else to add just yet. I mean, I look forward to it because it's, whatever route I end up going, and I'm anxious to hear how your experience is. It's more ways for us to play Doom, and spoiler alert, we're going to talk more Doom on this show.
Yeah, I know it's shocking, but I bet you it's coming soon. Cool. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.